Guys, we have a big debate today, and it's a big question that we've been meaning to ask now because there's a lot of talk about keepers recently. Let's start with my club in the sense of who is the new number one in goal, Raya or Ramsdale. Let's switch it back to your side and talk about Onana's howler, which I think was a bit harsh to call such a bad howler, but it was a howler in itself. Now, we know that all of those keepers that were just mentioned have their own unique styles, and the tactics of the keepers in modern day football are now becoming a very hot topic. So the question I want to ask you, who would you pick for a keeper? Would you rather a keeper who has good hands and is a shot stopper, or would you rather a keeper that's good with their feet?
I will pick Alisson because he has both. But
Yeah.
obviously that's not what we're discussing here. I mean, that's tough because I think the best person to ask this question to, or I should say a group of people, are probably United fans, right? I mean, they had David De Gea in goal for 12 years, I think it was. And now they have a worse shot stopper than David De Gea in Andre Onana, but obviously a better player with his feet, which suits the current cycle slash trend more. This is all to say we need a good keeper. A good keeper has to have both, right? So and we're not sitting here saying that obviously De Gea is not like fit for the modern game. That's why he's still not found a club after 72 days since he was released from the club. The players that we're discussing here now, like David Raya, Ramsdale, Onana, they're not disabled in one area or the other. They're all I mean, right. I mean, I guess some are more excellent in one field than the other keepers are. Um, I guess this is a long way of saying I prefer a keeper who's good with his hands. Maybe that's
Yeah.
me being, I don't know, maybe that's me being conventional, but I mean, that's what you said too, right? Good hands got to come first.
Yeah, I mean, look, for the sake or like, if we're talking in all honesty, like my opinion, my personal opinion on the matter is I have to agree with you and say that keepers got to keep first. Just like I always say, fullbacks got to defend first. Keepers got to keep first. It's got to be with the hands first. That's their primary role. But for the sake of this argument, there are definite aspects that having a ball playing keeper can bring benefits to your game, that they can add value. And we've seen that even when Man U were playing Arsenal, right? Onana's feet on the ball was
Yeah.
just giving you guys a whole nother outlet from a different side of the field. It basically added another player as an option for you, and it created so much more openings for you.
Yeah, and I think that's why the first half was so drab. Obviously we were trying to slow the game down. We probably couldn't do that with De Gea, but we can now with Onana there because De Gea would just kick the ball out of play. Whereas Onana, I know Nketiah is a good presser, but most of I know he tried to press him like 2-3 times, but then he just got rinsed. So they didn't even bother pressing Onana, right? So that's why first half was drab. And if that's what they were going for, yeah, keepers that are good on the ball can definitely provide so much of an edge compared to a keeper with the conventional sense of keeping the team in the game by saving goals in a sense.
Right. We always talk about high risk, high reward type of football. And, this is the peak of it, really. To have a keeper that's able to not only play the ball short out from the back and play those risky passes, but they're able to ping the long passes accurately. I don't think people are giving enough credit on that accuracy aspect of it because, as we said, we've seen many times the assist coming directly from the keeper, but even just to get the ball up the field, how much pressure that relieves for your team, how much of the game that affects. Because when the ball is in the opposition half now, it completely changes the momentum and the pressure of the game to one favor, right? And that ability to do that is key for game management, which we've seen in recent matches is so important in the Premier League nowadays. But then at what cost? Look at Onana's blunders should have been against Wolves, and now against Bayern Munich. At what cost?
Yeah. I know you said you're waiting for his overconfidence to cost us. He has cost us the game against Bayern, but it wasn't his overconfidence. So we're still waiting for that moment. We're still waiting. It was a mistake. I mean, that David De Gea would have gotten slandered for that. Onana's new, so that's why it's still a bit rosy right now, right, with the new keeper. But yeah, I mean, I always take this back to Ederson, and I know a lot of people like Ederson, but the reason why I don't, and maybe this will be the same conclusion that I get to with Onana in a few months or years, I just don't rate Ederson because he's not going to be that keeper who will, I mean, he'll save what is expected to be saved, but he's not a spectacular shot stopper like Alisson is. Alisson saved almost 10 goals for Liverpool last season. Whereas when you go back 2-3 seasons ago, when City are getting done on a counterattack, I think that's of course a setup played a part, but that's partly also because Ederson cannot keep a shot out of the goal, So I think
that's harsh. I hear your point. I think that's harsh, but I hear your point.
Maybe I am being harsh. Of course, I'm not saying Ederson's a terrible keeper, but he's just not the type to pull off those saves where, in a sense, City were relying on Ederson to bail them out, and Ederson is just not going to be able to do that. And that's different than having a blunder, but and Alisson is definitely susceptible to a blunder or two. I mean, he had one against Bournemouth this season as well. But I think you look at what Alisson's able to do and you compare it to Ederson, who arguably, or is it even arguable, he's the best player on the ball, but best keeper on the ball. So that's why I veer towards a keeper who can save shots, because I've seen countless times how many times Ederson has cost City points and perhaps titles,
as opposed to Alisson saving them, which I agree with. And I think it's a no debate in that conversation, at least for me and you. I'm sure like the world of football, and you let us know as well in the comments if you think Ederson is better than Alisson. But I know me and you both think Alisson, but I want to, on that topic, I want to touch on the root of this whole conversation if we're being real. Manuel Neuer was the one, him and Pep Guardiola at Bayern was the one that really started this whole playing out from the back through the keeper, right? I know that we can see a comparison now between Neuer and Alisson, as opposed to maybe like a Gianluigi Buffon, maybe, who is just obviously a world-class keeper, one of the best keepers to ever play the game, but just a different type of keeper, way more traditional type of keeper. Let's compare Neuer and Alisson just because they're a bit more similar. Who you got in that battle, Alisson or Neuer?
I know the consensus is Neuer probably, but me having watched the Premier League way more often than the Bundesliga or the World Cup or any German national team matches, I think Alisson's the best Premier League keeper ever. Like that's just that. Maybe that's just me. Obviously, I can't speak to the likes of David Seaman or Peter Schmeichel or any player, any keepers of those sorts back in the days, but Alisson's the best keeper in the world.
Right now, boy, I mean, you could. The thing is, I hear you talk on Alisson being the best keeper in the Premier League, but in my opinion, not ever. Not ever. I mean, Petr Cech is someone who comes to mind immediately. He was part of that Chelsea team that conceded the fewest goals in Premier League history in a given season. So he's got to be in that talk. And to compare Alisson and Neuer, although it's a great battle, my opinion still going to lead to Neuer. And I'll tell you why. Alisson has done some phenomenal things, and he is very reliable and secure at the back. So much to a point where it you know that as a keeper, when you make it look easy, it's actually, it should be valued very highly. But I think we as fans, we value more the, the extravagant diving save. And we've seen a lot of those types of just outrageous saves from Manuel Neuer, to the point where I'm just left like, wow, that was absolutely inhumane, to be honest. So it has me questioning that sometimes. Am I looking at it from the perspective of, yo, Neuer has done some outrageous things which tips him above Alisson? Or does Alisson calm it down so much that it deserves to be recognized as brilliance? I'm leaning towards Neuer, though, in my answer.
Well, yeah, I mean that's probably the right answer. I mean, the weight that I would probably give him is that he's changed the dynamics of a keeper. Neuer is the one who, like you said, who he's the pioneer of this brand of keepers. And he came up what, in 2010, right? I think that was his breakthrough season with Schalke in the Champions League. Nobody cared about keepers playing the ball out from the back or even sweeping. Neuer is expert at both of those things, and I do have to give him the deserved credit for that, because without him there isn't an Alice. Is there? Maybe, but without him, we're looking at a totally different outlook for keepers right now.
Yeah, you're right. There probably isn't an Alisson, because that is what makes Alisson Alisson, right?
Yeah.
I want to ask, on that, one more comparison question. And I think this is going to be a good one, because this is really going to compare traditional keeping, traditional shot stopping keeping versus the playing out from the back keeping. Gigi Buffon or Ederson?
I mean, I'm biased against Ederson, so I'm going to go with Buffon. But that's just my preference, and I think you'll pick Buffon as well. But I just watched the Newcastle AC Milan game, and the difference was stark. Mike Maignan, so easy, comfortable on the ball, whereas Nick Pope, I mean, he's a British keeper. That's what you would expect from him. So right now, Ederson is obviously the fit for the modern game. But deep down in my heart, I mean, people don't like change, So I still, for a keeper, I still would probably. I mean, if I had the choice, I would go for Buffon any day of the week.
Gigi Buffon or Manuel Neuer?
So we're picking the greatest of all time keepers here.
Yeah, we gotta compare them. We gotta see.
I know Buffon broke the goalkeeper the record. I think it was right back in 2000. I think Neuer would have broken that was he not German. If he wasn't German and he wasn't so, I mean, Germans love Bayern Munich, right? I'll have to go with Manuel Neuer.
Yeah, he just about edges it, I think, for me too. Even though that's a tight one, I think Buffon, just the sheer fact, and Neuer also has this in his locker too, but just the sheer fact that he's been doing it for so damn long, he deserves so much credit.
Yeah, I mean, there's other keepers we're forgetting, like Casillas, Van der Sar, I mean, you name it. But this debate has all come up just for me to ask you this. Who do you want in goal against Tottenham? Ramsdale, who's won four in a row, right? Against Spurs, I think. Or David Raya, who's looked good, but you could say he hasn't really been tested in both games.
I'm very glad that you decided to add against Tottenham at the end of that question, because my answer would have annoyed you and probably annoyed a lot of people, to be honest. But if you're asking me in this current match coming up, my answer is going to have to be David Raya. And I have a good reason for it. is because, look, I believe a lot in flow. And I believe right now, Arsenal have found a flow with Raya in goal. And it comes down to that, what we spoke about, the playing out from the back. I'm not saying Ramsdale can't. I just think Ramsdale is more risky with it. He's going to try more of the extravagant. Whereas Raya, I think, keeps it a bit more simple, given we haven't seen enough of Ramsdale for me to compare the two in Arsenal's system.
Well, I think Raya is just better with his feet, really.
That's what I've been hearing people say as well as their opinion. Even though I think it's slightly different in terms of like the kicking, but anyways, that's a topic for maybe a later day. But I will say so far, Raya 2 clean sheets in 2. I know, as you say, he maybe wasn't tested, but he looks solid with his hands, his shot stopping, his catching particularly. And what I rate about him is he's very commanding of his area, both in the Everton game and the PSV game. Very commanding. And Ramsdale, we spoke about it in the last epi, bro. He made some weird mistakes the last time. Like, I felt like even against Fulham, what was that first goal conceded? What is he doing? Like, was the sun in his eyes or what? I mean, no one was really talking about that, but at the end of the day, that's something he should be saving. I don't want to be facing that against Tottenham, where is this random moment of collapsing in the match like that. Lack of focus. No.
Well, I mean, I can hear you. I don't know. I mean, to chuck him. I mean, he was playing for Brentford. You know, he's probably not used to this type of pressure or atmosphere yet. I mean, maybe he is. We just won't know. I mean, I think we said the same thing about Ramsdale when he first started. I say this because we could potentially see keeper substitutions from Arteta.
He said he regrets it.
Yeah, that's why. Kind of piggybacking on your point of him commanding the area, maybe I can think of a few games where maybe Ramsdale could have done better in terms of commanding his area, right? So it sounds ridiculous, but it could work out, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that's a great point that you bring up because, you know, Arteta did mention, he said, I've regretted in games where I didn't substitute the keeper because it makes sense. Think about it. If you're tying the game right off from the back, I would say Ramsdale may be better at spraying passes than Raya is, but Raya might be the overall better passer. I know that sounds weird, but when you watch it, you can maybe understand what I'm saying. But Raya coming out for crosses and catching them, collecting them, do you realize how crucial that will be in the latter stages of the game? When we're up 1-0, we're up 2-0, we're trying to see out the game. Well, yeah, Raya will come huge for that.
Yeah, I know. De Gea would never come out for crosses, so yeah, I know.
But then what about the pulling the rabbit out the hat, like we spoke about for Neuer? We've seen that from Ramsdale. Have we seen that from Raya? Not yet. Ramsdale, we know he has it in his locker, so it's a risk again.
Yeah. Well, this is all to say, it's a big game this weekend. Are you confident?
I am confident. This is probably the best Tottenham have looked for the past year, but I'm confident, bro. Like, we're strong Champions League performance. We're gaining back flow. We're gaining back our rhythm. I'm very happy. Trossard looks to be firing.
Yeah, this is to say, this is the first time that both teams are coming into this game undefeated. I know it's early on, only 6 games or 5 games in, but both teams coming in undefeated. And you know what that means? This means it's going to be a draw. When these things, you know, these stats get brought up. But yeah, I think off the back of that performance against Eindhoven, who they've lost a key player in Sangare, so let's see how strong PSV actually are. But I think Arsenal are a bit strong for Tottenham at the moment too. So
yeah, man, keep playing that. The boy Declan Rice.
That's all we have time for today. Guys, thanks for tuning in as always. We hope you enjoyed your time with us. Remember to subscribe, to leave comments, and share with your friends. Follow us on social media at FOTBpod. Don't forget to leave a review, rating, and most importantly, don't forget to turn on those notifications. Join us again next time as we discuss the highly anticipated upcoming Premier League action. Thanks again as always. See you then.